The reason I'm pausing here is because for black folks, church is a big deal. Some even say the term Sunday best came from slaves having one good outfit their owners bought them for church, which, to be fair, we kind of ran with. And ran, and ran, and ran.
We can for sure get into that. Yes, yes, y'all. Yes, and it don't stop. Once again, we are back as if we had never left. Ladies and gentlemen, oh my goodness, thank you for being with us on this. It's on a Saturday. This is a little out of character for me, but, you know, I just had to, I really had to get this interview in. I had to get this podcast in because I was really excited. I've been trying to get these guys on the show for a little bit. Shout out to, Ashley in the cut, for that alley-oop lob on this, let's get right into it. Anyway, shout out, Trey YZ, Braden K in the building.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pulling up, doing it real. I should have had that like on the drop right there. I guess you guys can't hear. You don't have that. but it'll definitely be there on the other side when you're all listening to it. But thank you y'all for coming in.
Yo, thank you for having us.
Braden, that was that Tall Order we were bumping, or was that the Bag song we were bumping right before?
I think Found Me was the last one that was playing just there. Yeah. Newest single, Found Me.
Hard to say.
Well, yeah, you do really have like a lot. Like you go on your Spotify and there's like a lot of singles there. There's a lot of good tracks and they kind of all have that colossal sound. I like Zilla, like that one. Like you're really like rapping your ass off on that. But
Colossal.
I feel like there's only singles though. There isn't no album there. And like, once I get 4 or 5 songs into an artist and he's 4 for 5 like that, I kind of go, where's that album? You kind of want that like sort of, so what's going on with that? You got an album coming out? You said we were talking, we chopped it up a little bit beforehand, so you said you're sitting on an album, right?
Yep, sitting on an album right now. Songs about drugs, SAD. That's all those singles are going to be on the album. We've been working on that for about a year now, and right now it's all just a matter of timing and putting it out.
That's really interesting that like you kind of have it like already like done and you're like sitting on it. That like it takes a lot of like self-discipline. I would imagine,
I want to drop that shit right now.
Right?
like I had to put it out 8 times by now.
Have drop it. Yeah, but it's a procedure when you have an album because you put so much work into creating this product, and then you obviously want to release it. You want to have a procedure and make sure everyone hears it because people's attention spans are short, and you got to have it. You got to be acute. You got to put it in the right spot at the right time. So it's like you want to let it go, but then you keep measuring when's the right time. How do you get the hype up?
Yeah, you have to get that perfect timing. Timing is everything.
It's almost like knowing that in itself, knowing that like timing and like you got to know where to insert yourself like that. Like knowing that is almost half the battle. So it's like, how do you like you said, you got to make things like people's attention span is so short, right? And it's like, how do you combat that? How do you as like an artist? Because I feel like that's almost the most difficult part, right? Like adhering to that, right. Or is it just like something you don't even worry about in the sense that like you kind of just do you and it's.
No, I think that it's a combination of the two. Like I don't like to think about it too much, but that being said, the singles would be the main way that I combat it now, and the way that we've found a workaround with it. The release schedule used to be put out an album once a year, every year, under the last rap pseudonym. So
which was
YYZ.
Okay.
YYZ, yeah. So we have.
I was gonna ask, like, if Trey YZ was like a play on just XYZ, like etc. Or YYZ, like the.
Yeah, no, YYZ was the old name, and I was working under that for a couple years, and we were putting out a project on a pretty constant release schedule. But the thing about that is, with people's short attention spans, is when you just drop like a 10-song project on new listeners without a good single run up, they make it a few songs deep and then usually fall off. So if you have one of your hottest tracks on song 8 of the project, it's hard to keep them invested if they don't know you already.
Wow. It's interesting like that you like think of it like in that context too, because like it really is like difficult. And because like we kind of live in that sort of microwave era, you do have to kind of constantly have, lots and lots of content going. And a lot of people sort of take that concept and sort of turn it into like a quantity over quality, if you would. Like they're putting out more content knowing that it'll build up sort of that rapport that you were saying is so important, right? Like it's hard to just drop something without having like the momentum with it, and people aren't really taking in the full project. So like, I don't know, man. Like shout out to you artists. Like you guys don't get enough credit for like, you know, having to plan those types of things. So, you know, I want to kind of talk about like your sound too. Like it's very I said this before you got in. You're like an Anthony Davis, you know, in the sense that like you're a big guy, you play around the rim, you're a rim protector, you are a center power forward, but it's like you're athletic and you can shoot the ball and you can cover small forwards and stuff like that. And it's changed the game in the sense that you have to expect big men to cover, you know, point guards now. You got to expect your big men to be able to hit an open jump shot. And I just kind of went on like sort of a basketball rant.
Yeah,
man. But the way that translates to you, in my opinion, is that like a track like Zilla, right? Like that was that produced by you, Braden?
Yes.
So like the instrument, I really like the beat. It's almost it's like a trap beat, right? It maybe that's like a bit of a generalization.
I mean, yeah, trap's kind of general. I don't know.
But like there's it's a fun high octane beat, and he's like really like rapping his ass off on it, but at the same time it's like he's floating on it too, like with the flow and the melody, right? So it's like you got to be able to have like I was talking about this with DJ for the People last night. Like you need to be able to do the most important thing in each element like really well. You need to be able to have good hooks, you got to be able to have bars, you got to be able to have the melodies. And it's like I think you're sort of like that new age versatile sort of artist, like an Anthony Davis is like a new age big man that really kind of forces other artists to have to be more versatile.
Right, you know? right. So no, I definitely respect that comparison. Like as far as Zilla goes, when it comes to rapping, like I rap, like I've been writing music for a long time now. So like that, getting in my rapping bag like that fast, aggressive shit, like
so you do
that's that. Oh yeah. I write. I'm not one. I don't just walk up to the mic and freestyle it. Not that I haven't, but
not that you can't.
Not that I can't. But,
and not even to knock those artists that do that, but a lot of these guys are able to sort of just like, you know, write in their heads or have an idea of like what they want to talk about, and then they're able to sort of articulate that like in a full session, you know, which is scary to me. Like I used to rap too. Well, still kind of do it, but like, you know, this is the hustle now, and it's like, you know, I need to be there with every syllable, every word, and it's like I don't understand. It's good to hear that.
Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist like that, especially when it comes to like my output via my art. So I can't not write it. Like a lot of the time I'll come up with the concept in my head and like I'll pace around the room and maybe record a bit here and record a bit there, but that would never be the finished product, because if I don't, there's always going to be a better line, a better bar, a better way to flow on a beat. So if I don't write it down and I miss that and then I realize it post release of the song, I'll never get over that. It's going to irk me forever. I'll lose sleep over it. So
being an artist is stressful, man. Like, because like, you know, those meticulous things, right? That like you can't get too caught up in.
Yeah.
But Braden, like you produce a lot of Trey's music, right? If not all of it, like
all of it, minus Found Me on this album.
Okay.
I've exclusively produced all of his releases.
So when you guys work together, like how's that collaborative process? Are you kind of sending him beats? Do you guys write together, or like
it's kind of an alchemy of energy. So it's like if we're in the room together, it's going down. Like if we're in the zone and we're in the room together,
you get something.
Sometimes it's a beat from scratch. Sometimes it's something I made the night before, and I'll be like, "Hey, check this out." Trey has a way to like kind of transform something I make into something I didn't actually see it becoming. Like I'll give him a beat I wasn't even a big fan of, and suddenly I'm a fan of it. Or he'll come up with a melody, like a technical cadence over the beat that gives it it's like a whole new instrument on the beat, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't hear it like that before. So
wait, he'll do that?
Yeah.
So like you guys will almost co-produce then?
Yeah, but just but vocally he means like I'll like
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, his vocal melodies will change the structure of the beat in my ears. But as far as like creating it, it's like historically we just like create a lot of stuff and then pare it down to what we both feel is the condensed version, the nicest stuff. Okay. You know, the richest, the good meat.
And we've done it both ways too. Like we've done entire projects that we've probably been in the room together for the creation of every single song on that project. But we also wrote a project where for the most of it, Braden was in Costa Rica and
shit.
so communication was at like an absolute minimum, because it's not Wi-Fi popping all the time. He can't just call me. I can't call him. So we're communicating rarely, but he's sending me beats and I'm sending him verses back or voice memos of ideas that I have.
Always in touch.
And but like
that's good to hear, man.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that you guys kind of have like that relationship, that like you're working in that capacity and you're sharing ideas, because like a lot of times it's like just like a studio environment or like a session, and it's like, I don't know. I love hearing the way that creation happens, and it's like it seems like a very authentic way that you guys kind of have point A to B like on your production. Another thing I kind of wanted to ask you, like I said, you're very versatile. You adhere to a lot of different sort of sub-pockets, sub-genres of hip-hop. So, like, I'm curious as to, like, where your inspiration, your biggest influences come from.
Like, with my original writing style, I'd say my bigger influences were, like, obviously, I got into rap because of M when I was a kid. Jay-Z has always been a huge inspiration for me. I love Childish Gambino, Chance the Rapper, but like old Childish Gambino, like mixtape Childish Gambino.
Yes.
Wayne, I'm a big fan of Wayne. All like the entire Carter series. Yeah, I'd say that pocket in itself is probably all my biggest inspirations.
All those guys you mentioned are like rappers, that like
I'm a rapper.
Yeah, no, but it's like and it's like it's not even like I know, but it's so many of these rappers, man, that I talk to that like they call themselves a rapper, and they don't really care about the bars. It's like more about like those types of things, and it's like it's refreshing. That's why I kind of keep going back to that it's like, oh shit, like but you sound like you have like that sound though that can compete with like that. Well, I don't say, maybe it's fucked up to say compete, but like just that it works in that trap realm too. And there's a high focus on like what you're saying and the substance and the content. And like for me, that's really important as a fan when listening to somebody. So it's like I will always champion and praise an artist that does that. So
man,
it was a bit of a conscious move too between both of us, where we wanted to like we had actual conversations about like how do we like rectify, how do we like marry this, like because like we wanted to move ahead in a current sound on the production tip, I did and Trey did, but also like retain
your integrity,
what makes him
right.
So it's like, how do you meet this, like how you're talking about some people can just step into the booth and spit and do their thing. There's so much post-production on people's vocals that you can say almost anything and it'll sound dope, not to take away from their skill, because also it's like it's an energy projection thing. Like people who can do that are literally just oozing cool, you know what I mean? So you just go in there and you're just like, and it sounds dope after the production and shit all kind of fluffs it out. And so it was like, how do we kind of take that vibe but also pay homage to Trey's inspirations and his lyrical ability and kind of marry the two together? And the current project that we're sitting on is kind of our experiment with that.
I think that's got to be one of the most difficult things as an artist, to maintain your integrity and to like sort of adhere to new ideas that you've like kind of cultivated before. So like, shout out to you guys, especially for doing it well and doing it at the high level that you guys do it at. I posted this video you were saying about producing and putting together vocals and all those meticulous things that you producers do and don't really get the credit for. And I posted a video, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, about like the contrast between who contributes more to a song, an artist or a producer. And like I had some people in here and they were saying, it can, in a general sense, not obvious, like, every producer, rapper, duo is different and everything, but in a general sense, it's almost like 80% like the producer. They say that makes the song from point A to B what it is.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? Especially Trey as a rapper, they're kind of they're almost shitting on rappers.
Yeah,
no.
Saying, all right. So to speak on that, I definitely don't like.
They weren't. I wanted to clarify too. They weren't shitting on like rappers. Like shout out Erica and Mal. They actually were giving me some dope insight. But it
sounds like something a producer said.
Right, but it's like I think it's just an interesting conversation to have. So like I didn't want to make it sound like they were shitting on anybody either, but like I do want to hear your
yeah. So as far like I don't really feel a way about that, because like just specifically speaking to my experience with Braden, like this dude is the hardest working person I know. So like he does definitely pull his weight and more when it comes to the creation of a song.
Yeah.
Because he's not just making the beat, you know, like let's not get it twisted. He's never just making the beat. He's giving me insightful input on how I should move on it, ideas for hooks and stuff like that. We come up with melodies together. So and then he polishes the entire thing and mixes it and makes it the idea that maybe I can see at the beginning, but I don't have the ability to do that with just the rapping.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree that producers do a lot of the work. I don't know if I'm going to go 80%, but maybe in some scenarios with certain artists, 80%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. As far as I'm concerned, I always am trying to have my input in the creation of a song at every level of the creation of a song. So ideally I'm trying to be there when the beat's being created. Obviously that's not going to happen if I'm getting the beat from somebody else, but I'm trying to be there when the beat's being created. I want to put my input on drops and stuff like that, or where I think like it should switch up, risers and things like that. Even so, like as far down to the bass line, when we work together, sometimes I have an input with that kind of shit. And then that being said, like I said, like I write, like it's like I don't just walk in, drop a hot verse, and then walk out and like never dwelled on it before or after, you know, like I'm writing my shit down days or weeks ahead of that recording. So I'm like putting time into that shit. So
the reason I keep saying like, yo, that's dope, like you're a rapper, I feel like that's like a lost art almost, you know?
For sure.
People really are like able to kind of just go point A to B without writing something down. So it's like, you know, it's really awesome to hear like the relationship you guys and the effort and the energy that goes into it. And I think the conversation that contributes to like what you're saying, like how much effort Braden puts into it, you know, Braden is very, from what it sounds like, you are very in every essence a producer. And I think with the conversation I was having and the conversation it sparked, people commenting on the video, they were kind of saying, you know, there isn't really a distinction that people often make between a producer and, let's say, a beat maker, right? Because I think, in my opinion, there really is a big difference, right? A beat maker isn't necessarily working with the vocals, making melodies, and working with an artist in the capacity that you guys are describing, right? So, I think there's a lot of really, really popular platinum producers that really aren't producers, you know, they're beat makers. And I don't think it's to knock their craft or anything like that, but what do you guys kind of, how do you feel, especially as a producer, you know, that distinction and kind of people getting credited as, you know, true producers when really they're just a beat maker, potentially, you know, sending the same 60 beats that they send to everybody, and they kind of, they're really good beats, so they're getting used and they kind of get that connotation as a producer.
I think like on one hand it's semantic. I mean, you're a musician, like one way or the other. I remember, but on the other hand, I remember when I first started to like learn about recording and producing, well, recording, making music, recording it and polishing it and making it sound good. When I first started learning these like rudimentary shits, I was like, I knew I wanted to be a producer, but I remember literally because I'm pretty like detail oriented, and I'm always trying to be like, you know, I'm
producers
very, like,
generally are.
Yeah, right. And I'm like,
people,
so I'm like, am I a producer? Because when I'm like, I'll be like watching a movie and it'll be like produced by, and I'm like, so what does that producer do? And so I remember like really looking into it because I wanted to know how to label myself for myself. Yeah, you know what I mean, like to me. And I was like,
identity.
Yeah, for my own identity. And I was like, oh, producers are basically looking it up, researching it. And I was like, producer is the guy who like gets all the appropriate people into the appropriate room to make the appropriate product. You know what I mean? And it was like, you got to know who's the best drummer for this project and who's going to rap best on this sound. You're basically kind of like what's the person who at the orchestra, the composer,
maestro.
Yeah. So kind of like that. And so I feel like that's what producing in music means, something so different from every other context of the word production, because it flies loose in music. But I mean, I consider myself a producer because I go deeper than just making the beat. Yeah. But I don't throw any shade at people who are beat makers but call themselves producers, because I think the word flies pretty loose. And I think that if you're sitting and you're composing music and making it happen, then, you know, instead of taking people and putting them in the right place, you've taken sounds and put them in the right place. Yeah. And so by all means, you are produced. You know what I mean? But if you go a bit deeper and you try to get, when someone's on the mic, you know, I try to activate and be like, hey man, you know, step a bit closer to the mic. Let's lower the mic a bit.
Yeah.
That last take you did was great, but why don't you try it yelling? Why don't you try it sounding sadder? Why don't you go drink some water? I can hear your fucking dry ass mouth. Things like that. Like I try to be, because I want, as a mixer and a recording engineer, I want the best possible signal that I can work with, because after the person leaves or is no longer rapping, my bag has just opened. You know what I mean? So now I've got the work, now I've got the raw materials, but I'm the one who has to sit and, you know, polish it all up. So I'm trying to get the best signal. And in that sense, I feel like I can call myself a producer with no qualms, because I feel like I actively go deeper than just recording and doing the thing.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Talk your shit, Braden K.
Oh, I just hit a bunch of air horns and they're delaying. But holy shit, bro! Like, yo, you just kind of like the way that you contextualized producing there, and the way that you wrapped all that up, like the distinction. Wow, that. Thank you for your insight on that. I don't even know if there's more I need to speak on that, because I think you outlined that perfectly.
I tried to tie a little knot at the end.
Yeah, no,
little balloon knot.
Oh, like I don't know what happened to my air. Hold on, there. No,
My form of
Give the man his air horn.
Yeah.
Give me my air horn. God damn it.
We'll get off that real quick. Just and I think that's why guys like, I think Kanye West, like, you know, like you said, putting everybody in the same room and, like, you know, working towards the greatest product.
He's the greatest.
Yeah.
Kanye is a producer.
Greatest.
Yeah.
Sunday service going to be at Coachella this year, right?
They're doing it at Coachella?
Yeah.
The sunrise at Coachella.
I didn't see that.
Sunrise Sunday service.
Yo, that'd probably be my favorite part of Coachella. I'm not going to lie.
It's going to be interesting.
Just to take acid and
Yeah,
Sunday
for real.
Let's talk about one producer in particular. Because since we're on this beat maker producer sort of distinction, Canada's own Murda Beats, right? Seems to be securing all types of bags left, right, and center, right? Like
he's at the grocery store.
Inserting himself in all the right areas, working with the right artists. Man, I can't, like, he really, he posted a picture with somebody the other day that I was, like, really excited about. Is he one of those guys you feel like that kind of, like, adheres to that beat maker producer sort of distinction? Because, like, it's not a lot of the time where he's working, like, in the studio. At least that was, like, the connotation he's kind of had previously. I think, you know, more recently he worked with Drake on Nice for What, and, like, they kind of described how that studio session went.
I think that was his, like, supreme jump off.
Yeah.
I think he was already super crushing it before that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
He had a whole album on Amigos.
Yeah, man, like, I've done a lot of research. Well, I'm not about to, like, put my foot in my mouth, but I remember reading actively about Murda Beats, because at first I wasn't a fan, because I was like, oh man, like, oh, he's just lucky, like he slid in there. But then I caught myself, because I'm not the type to, like, I never want to catch myself hating on people, because everyone's got their own grind and their own struggle. And I was like, well, all right, let's do a bit of research, man, on this. And so, like, I feel like he slid in. So through the research, I remember reading about this guy, Corey Litwin, who I actively follow, because he's Murda Beats' manager, and I guess used to be like a club promoter in Toronto, and then parlayed his promotion skills into music, as far as I know. I'm not out here speaking facts. I'm regurgitating, let it be clear.
Okay.
But so, like, I think they slid into business together, and the shit just blew up. And I think Murda Beats' beats are pretty like average quality.
Yeah.
But I think that his success speaks to brand strength. And one thing I admire about him and that, like, his crew and whoever, you know, donates their time and energy,
that brand
contributes to the brand, man. Brand strength, I feel, is so strong. It's always been about branding. But
I think he does it a lot through, like, the tags and stuff too. He's always kind of got, like, a new tag.
He got
and he's getting the biggest rappers in the game to give him a beat tag.
And he's active. And I think that, like, one of the most important things about becoming a master, and you could almost call him, like, he's a beat master. Like, he's out there. The proof is, like, the writing's on the wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the thing about becoming, like, super dope at supremely awesome at anything is that 10,000 hours. And it seems like he just is never not in a studio. So, like, I feel like he's crushing it, because he is sleeplessly making beats all the time. So like you can say what you want, but if he's on the treadmill, once you step off the treadmill,
I agree with what you said. Like, it's almost like he kind of had like that sort of average sort of like, okay, like run of the mill beats, but it's like, you know, from that jump off point with like the Nice for What, and it's like,
yeah, like Nice for What was like poorly mixed. Like if you listen to that song, it's like it's hi-hat city with like a bit of samplage, and
well,
Drake, and then Drake
sample,
makes it
right?
money, so then
it's
that's
the sample
it
too.
Yeah.
Like, Drake can afford a fucking Lauryn Hill sample.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Drake
but
and
their
the Lauryn
branding
sample's not gonna
is what
fail.
pushed it over the edge and made it completely massive.
'Cause
I
he
saw
does-
Lauryn Hill live, and Lauryn Hill did a cover of her own song. She did.
Did a cover
Remember?
of Nice
That
for
is
What.
a wild concept.
She did it. She
Wow.
did. She slipped Nice for What into X Factor.
And then she covered it. Yeah, she did a verse on it. She put a verse on it.
She's like, "Hey, Toronto, I know this is big right now."
No, she was
And-
talking shit about it.
Was she?
She was talking. She was
Oh.
not stoked about it.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah.
Then why would she let
But she
Drake
did play it though.
Then
She
why?
did play it. Yeah.
That's kind of that she'll take that check, but she'll kind of talk down on it.
She was begrudging the whole concert.
Man,
though.
the entire time. Yeah.
That's Lauryn Hill though. Too.
Yeah, the entire time
God
she was
bless her.
like vocally did not want to be there, and like you can, I got the sense, and I feel like everybody got the sense that like she took the bag because like she needs the bag, and she's probably making moves like that in her career right now, but not stoked about it.
Lauryn Hill, I think, is such a good example of like what, like if you make one thing that's really really good, just how it can amalgamate and like legendary careers for you. You know, it's like off that one album, Miseducation, it's like we give her all this, we let her show up 6 hours late to concerts.
I will
People-
forever let her. Do
And it's like,
anything.
and you know what? Rightfully so, because goddamn,
It's a
Miseducation.
good ass.
it's
fucking
fucking
album.
beautiful,
That's
yeah.
a life altering piece of work. Right
Yeah,
there.
it's beautiful, but you're right. Like off one project, she gets GOAT status. Like,
Yeah, it's and rightfully so. Shifting out of the production conversation, but still sort of there with it. You know, there's been a lot of talk about production elements and this and that with specific in regards to a specific artist, Lil Nas X. You know, he put out a song called Old Town Road. I
Take
believe.
my
Old Town Road.
horse to the old town road.
And it's a country song, right? Or at least it has that country twang. He's rapping about horses and stuff like that and dirt roads. It's very, very, very yeehaw culture.
it's yeehaw.
That song was bubbling. There's a whole, we can talk about if he's an industry plan or not. He seemed to kind of come out of nowhere.
No,
right?
man, TikTok. It's TikTok.
Right, and it just seemed to click. It's bubbling, and because of all that, it's like it should be a country song, right?
Right.
And I think on the Wednesday, the day after the charts reset, he would have been set to be the #1 song on Billboard, and the country Billboard charts, and Billboard said, "Nah, it's not enough country elements," and
Dropped him.
yeah, and so. But I think it's cool to see that the
Silly.
culture had his back, you know? Like we were kind of like, no, we still fuck with Lil Nas X, and we kind of we'll fuck with him even though it's this yeehaw
Why did
culture.
it get to country
It-
Billboard in the first place?
Because it's a
not
country song.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
let it fly. It made it there. You can't just cut
Yeah.
it off. No.
Why do you think that is? WB.
Racism.
Because racism. Yeah. For real
I think
though.
country people are scared. They're,
I w-
they're a skirt. And then fucking they're super happy to like go ahead and appropriate like trap elements into country, but they're not trying to have like country be like usurped by trap folk or like not even just like black folk. It's like been historically a predominantly white music culture country.
Very
I
niche,
was
yeah.
I was reading something the other day, and again, like this is just regurgitation. It's not, don't take it as fact, but I was reading something and it was saying that I don't know if it's the top 10 of the country Billboard or the entire country Billboard, but Lil Nas X is the 4th black person ever to make it to that position
Oh my god.
in the history of the Billboards running. So like just the fact that that is the standing case, if that is the standing case, like of course it's dominated by racist white folk. Like they're who are calling the shots, obviously.
It's so funny, man. They're just like, country people having everything.
The
taken
funniest
from
part
them.
of it is that I feel like their main argument is that it's kind of a joke, but because like when you get into his like the hook is super dope, and then you get into his choruses, like into his verses, and he's clearly like taking a piss. You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
trying to make
the
a country
verses
song.
are fire.
they're fire, sure, but
Yeah.
like he's clearly like spoofing on country, like a bit at least.
Is
A
Lil Nas X a country guy?
No. He's like a 19-year-old black kid. Like, he's chilling. I've never seen him post any country things like before or after that. I wasn't following him before. But outside of Old Town Road, I don't see any country branding.
I wonder if he's gonna go full Mason Ramsey and get the tassel jacket.
Yo, he doubled down on it though when
Billy Ray.
yeah, he brought Billy Ray Cyrus in for the
Yo,
remix,
and the remix is fire.
Yeah, that shit
The
slapped.
remix is fire. And the fucking vid of Billy Ray and him in the studio and all his boys and like they're going ham and Billy Ray's twanging on the guitar. Like, I don't think I've ever loved Billy Ray that much before.
Now they have to put him back because he got the Billy Ray stamp.
Exactly, man.
He got the achy breaky heart fucking endorsement.
We thought
Your
Lil
country.
Nas was out of here before. Jeez,
Yeah,
that Billy Ray feature.
yeah. I think all the controversy around it is just served to make the song bigger. So
That's all.
country
it is.
Billboard fucked themselves on that.
You know,
Fuck a
that's
billboard, anyways. Really.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. That like sort of the controversy, the backlash, the outrage, the reaction of that, him not being allowed to be classified as a country artist or making a country song. That's kind of what propelled him forward. It's working to his advantage,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And just getting out of the Lil Nas X sort of fiasco, I think it's part of a bigger conversation here that adheres to sort of outrage culture, right? And it isn't something that like he, I guess, planned for. I guess he was just trying to make a country song, and then like he didn't really know that this would happen, and it's really working for him. And it's crazy the way that people are starting to notice this, right? They're starting. Well, there's a guy that runs, the United States right now that kind of almost used this formula, right? That if you say the wildest thing possible, you know that it'll get a lot of attention. You know that 50% of the people crucify you for it. The rest will, at least discuss it if they're not going to agree with you. So it's very interesting to see how people use this sort of agenda to, work for them, and
Right.
especially I at least find it more interesting when they use these sentimental issues, like this is sort of trivial. It's music, genre defying and stuff like that. But I think in a case more like Jussie Smollett or something like that, where a man consciously makes a decision, knowing what a potential outcome could be based on it, and using that to further his brand, or in a way, right? Like he's trying, he was going to be written off of Empire, and he's kind of trying to create a situation to create sympathy for himself, right? And kind of victimization. And it's just because he knows that's how the public will react. If it's a hate crime and, a racial, an act of racism, then it's like, double whammy there, right? And I just think it's fucked up. What do you guys think about it?
I think my guy Jesse fully knocked himself out, and that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm here for it. But no, it's that move is super fucked, and the fact that like we live in a time where we live in a society. The fact that we live
say that a lot of times.
Yeah. The fact that we live in a time where like you can even conceive that's even a conceivable move to make to garner attention, I think is a bigger issue than the act itself. Like doing that is super dirty, and also I think it's gonna set back like
Community.
Social justice just in general on both fronts by quite a bit, because now you have an entire side of people that whenever there's a genuine hate crime committed on either the Black community or the LGBTQ community are immediately going to fall into the, well, this isn't as serious as it actually is way of thinking, because they can now, because they have proof that
People lie about this.
that people lie about this. And so now when you have, especially like you mentioned earlier, obviously Donald Trump utilizes shit all the time, but when you have somebody like Donald Trump that is constantly hammering fake news, and then you have somebody who legitimately creates a fake news story, now so many people are vindicated and just going, nah, fake news.
I think
So-
too that there's like a blurry line between like how fake you can be, like moral legalities. It's like, for instance, like everyone on Instagram puts their best face forward. Like everybody crops out the sad parts of their life on Instagram.
It's a highlight reel.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, was I really at this place that I said I was, you know, kind of thing. And it's like, you're always trying to like trump up what your activities are. So it's like, there's a level to that we all accept, that we don't really question. You're like, well, you take it at face value.
It's almost like the headlines, right? Like people are just kind of take like the best parts, and it's like, it's almost as if, you know, if the lie is more entertaining than the truth, then people are going to roll with the lie.
The fucked up thing is,
it's like, but if you go too far like that guy, then it's like, but it's a weird blurry line. Obviously,
the fucked up thing is that it's gonna work. Like even in Jesse's case, it's gonna work because he's not going to jail. Like he beat the case. He's, as far as I know, he beat the case. He's not going to jail. The charges are going to be dropped. And now we're here today talking about Jussie Smollett. Yeah. And I didn't even know who the fuck this guy was, or especially what his name was before he pulled this shit. So when all the dust settles and when all this is over, like Jussie Smollett is a person now. Like, he's a guy now.
He didn't even get what he wanted, and it's like the way you just kind of described that. Yeah, it's still kind of working for him, you know? Yeah. And it didn't happen the way he wanted. Very interesting.
And he put out music, right? Like he put out music.
Always the move.
Yeah, of course, right? Of course.
Tape.
So he put out music. I don't know if it was before or after
gay Tupac.
Yeah, he calls it the gay Tupac. He calls it the gay Tupac right after he knocked himself out.
Do you think I bet he started with that. You know, it's just like, how can I make myself some sort of a gay Tupac?
Well,
you
dude, like,
what if somebody shot at me for being black and gay? No, they won't believe you if you show. Why don't we just get two black guys to beat me up? And it's like,
man, he like concocted this plan with the help of his drug dealer and his drug dealer's brother. So you know they were gone off some shit, and he was sitting there stroking his chin, cutting out letters to fucking send to, what did he send it to? Like the Chicago Tribune or some shit? Cutting out letters to send to this newspaper to fucking blackmail himself after he knocks himself out.
So much effort.
Fucking
the levels, yeah. Like you had to really work hard at
the web of lies is so wild.
This guy was so high when they were concocting that plan. You don't just soberly make that many levels. You don't need to do fucking jump Inception to get your name out there.
If you're gonna get somebody to do a hate crime on you too, it's like, why would you get two fucking niggas to do it to you?
A white person, dude. You have white friends, guy. And also the amount he paid them was something wild. It's like fucking like $200 or some shit. Like that's not gonna buy your silence.
I don't know. That's almost an L on like the Nigerian community right there. Like, come on, Jussie Smollett gets paid $100,000 an episode, and you're gonna take $200 to commit a fake hate crime. Like, come on, man, you got to do better, Kings. I think like that side's fucked up too, of cancel culture, right? The way people will engineer these things to work in their advantage. Another part of it too is like, things that happened more so in the past, you know, when things resurface. I think a good example of that recently was like the Cardi B situation. She did an Instagram live video years ago where she stated she had robbed men and kind of drugged them to set them up to. She said she drugged men to rob them and stuff like that, right? And the internet didn't like that.
It's
very interesting.
It's interesting because there's like a dichotomy on the internet right now, because I've seen a bunch of strippers running to Cardi B's defense, talking about how you guys don't know how it is, like this is how we had to make our money, like the life is rough, blah 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 blah. And like that opinion may hold some weight, but you absolutely cannot kill another male entertainer for doing the same thing or something similar. Just drugging somebody or just drugging somebody in general. And then when Cardi B comes and says, yeah, I used to do that, champion it. Yeah. Like you can't get behind that and say, get it, sis, get to the bag.
Yeah, but you can though.
Why?
Because it's a double standard that works.
I don't even know if it's like it's definitely not okay, like what she's saying.
Not okay.
But I think.
But the reason that there's even people because you won't see that happen with guys, and people will just not publicly get behind it, but you will see it with chicks, is because, like, all right, here's a quote. It's about dating, right? And I might be paraphrasing for anyone out here who's like fact checking, but it's like men are afraid of being embarrassed by women. women are afraid of being killed by men. So it's like when people step into situations with people they don't know, a man's biggest fear, total generalization, very like typical thing to say, but it's like, you know, their biggest fear is like, will this chick reject me? But a woman's fear, and once again, I'm not out here speaking for women by any means, but strictly just dissecting the quote, but is that like, they're in physical danger, you know what I mean, kind of thing. So right. It's like if a woman is out here taking advantage of scenarios to get herself ahead, they have to work a bit harder, or a lot of times a lot harder to get to where they need to be than men, because it's just the way that society's been oriented over fucking eons. But I think that's the reason why you see people behind a totally ludicrous, lewd, and, you know, fucked up thing to do to drug people and take their money. People, genders aside, but the reason women can get behind that is because they understand a certain level of pain that guys just won't be able to empathize with.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's also kind of people are kind of trying to draw false, like, I don't know if it's false, but people are drawing parallels between like this and like Bill Cosby or like R. Kelly and something like that.
The Bill Cosby, like, no, it's not a parallel. It's a completely
they're two different things.
Yeah.
They're both wrong, but at the same they're both wrong, but at the same time, there's a difference between pushing somebody and there's a difference between stabbing somebody. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
And, like, you know, they're both not okay, but they're different things.
Yeah, like the way that it's occurring, like Bill Cosby is doing that from a position of power and he's raping them, you know, and I don't know if Cardi B was or wasn't. I'm not that well versed in that specific topic, but she's not doing it from a position of power, you know, like
power that she has in a certain scenario to gain a bit of benefit.
Yeah, a bit of money. Yeah.
I think it's also a lot of like, you know, those men that just love to kind of like, but if it was a guy that did it, like they kind of wait for those moments all the time. Yeah, like the men's rights people, those fucking, we need to, those guys, we need to deal with them. But I feel like there's a lot of those guys were kind of waiting for a moment like this, and
of course,
they love that shit for their narrative, right?
Oh man, I almost
saying,
took myself right off the ledge right there.
that's that guys are afraid to be rejected shit, is when they see that they're like, see. You know what I mean? That's their like biggest fear, being taken advantage of. Like they're scared of that.
Yeah. Is Cardi B the Jussie Smollett of date raping?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Shit, man. I don't
know enough about the Jussie Smollett situation to be completely honest.
Jussie Smollett still to this day is like, nah, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, Cardi B kind of came out and was
Wouldn't
like,
that mean that she was like faking it?
That's true. I guess she did own up to it. She did say that she did it.
Yeah. And she's like, yo, it wasn't cool that I did it, but it's like, yo, give me a break.
I think it's just her loud ass mouth coming back to haunt.
Dude, I feel like she fully owned it. I don't know if she did, but like her fans, particularly women, and I'm assuming here, big assumption, are so behind her wild, ludicrous behavior that like even with this news story breaking, she could just fucking stick her tongue out and say, I totally did that. And everybody would be like, fuck yeah, Cardi.
Yeah, I think like, there should be some responsibility placed on the fans, because I think it's possible for them to be able to acknowledge and understand that, yo, that really isn't cool. Like, no, you shouldn't, just because you're a fan of her doesn't mean you should support her. But you can still be a fan and be like, no, that's wrong, you know?
Yeah,
but
you
that
have
plays
to be
right into that
I'm
Michael
a Kanye
Jackson
West
shit.
fan.
It's like,
you know?
where do you draw the difference
man.
between people's musical accolades and their activities? It's the same shit. It's that same double standard that's playing into it. It's like, well, it's okay because it's Cardi B, you know, so where do you do it with the guys? Is it's okay because it's Michael Jackson? Is it? I don't know. I mean, his catalog is much more impressive, extensive, and influential.
Speak for yourself.
That kind of goes to the Lord.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not trying to get into the MJ shit by any means.
No, I'm just saying that Cardi B's catalog is pretty impressive. So.
Oh, get out of here.
That's another conversation.
More like
too.
Pillar.
Cardi B, does she belong in a conversation with elite women MCs?
No.
Nah.
No.
What if she does this for 2-3 more years?
Maybe.
Is she writing it?
The problem isn't her quality, it's the quality of her fans. That's what is the difference between elite female MCs and her, is that people who are, not everyone, but she's a she's a fucking industry music tool, right?
Yeah.
Like she's more a meme than a human. So it's like it's the
Damn.
it's the
Gunshot.
people who are out here
Yeah,
being
should have the
like,
gunshot.
it's
for real.
amazing that it's the quality of her fanmanship, not her penmanship, that takes her out of that echelon of like super amazing female MCs.
Yo,
But
that
I will say she's an elite female entertainer, espally if she maintains this for 2 to 3 more years.
If she keeps
and I
going
think
like
there's
that,
something to be said about
Yeah.
that, especially like, you know, she's half Trinidadian, she's black, you know. I think she represents the culture in a great way.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the culture has her back. So
And she's real as fuck, or at least she appears to be. And you know, like
she appears to be
I
real.
respect that, and I think most of her fans respect her for it. Like I've seen them post as much. But yeah,
I mean,
as far
she's
as
dope. I do like her.
entertaining goes, she's definitely an elite female entertainer. I would never give her an elite female
She's
MC.
a top tier entertainer, period.
Yeah.
Like right now.
Yeah, not even
She's a
female, not
huge
even female.
force.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
you got
force.
a Super Bowl commercial, you know, put Cardi B in it. You
She's
know,
a
she'll
force.
entertain you.
She's
Yeah.
a heroine. She's a
So
force.
shout out Cardi B. Let's see you know, what comes of that. You know, I think she's gonna dodge this sort of cancel culture.
I think it's just
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
roll right
it's
off
gonna
her.
be
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna be
It's just
gone.
gonna roll right off
Be
her.
gone in like 3
But
weeks.
you know, very, very interesting that whole world of, you know, like I have a formal definition actually, like just before we get off of it, just so people understand, you know, like outrage culture, you know, the formal definition originating as call out culture is the social phenomenon of publicly denouncing perceived racism, sexism. I'm not going to rattle off all the isms, you know them.
All those.
But you know, kind of goes hand in hand with cancel culture when you stop supporting somebody morally, digitally, financially, all those things. Well, you know, but very, very interesting how people are utilizing that for their agendas and what they've got going on. But you know, I think there's a lot of other things that are taking place in the culture.
I think like also just to quickly throw back and speak on the Cardi B thing.
Yo.
It's gonna roll right off her because she's in the place in her career where she is right now.
Mhm.
You know, and like that's not what we see happening with a lot of the men that are in headlines. Like specifically, if we're talking about R. Kelly and Michael Jackson, and it's not even really fair. Like Michael Jackson's dead, so
Yeah.
he's at no place in his career right now. But like Cardi B is the biggest she's ever been. She's only getting bigger. She's going to continue to ride this wave for a little bit. I think that if in 10 years it leaked that Cardi B used to drug men and date rape men and rob them,
They would
it'd be a
capitalize.
whole different conversation we're
Yeah.
having right now.
I agree. I also think it's like important to like you said, like the separation of like an artist and like their art. Like the reason you can't do that with somebody like R. Kelly is because, you know, he's making songs about
His crimes.
his mind can't tell him no, but his body like and you have allegations about kids and stuff like that. Like it's very hard for me to enjoy that song knowing that, you know?
No.
And a guy like Kanye West, it's like, okay, you may like Donald Trump, Graduation still slaps. You're not rapping about Donald Trump on there. So it's like,
Graduation still slaps.
I can, you know, I can mend those two things, but you know, in Cardi B's situation, it's like, you know, she's a great entertainer. Not an elite female MC. It'll roll right off of her. And
I don't know though. Like, who do you weigh her against? Like, all right, who is an elite female MC right now?
right now, or just in general?
In general, I'd say.
Who's a
Okay.
just of all time? You're weighing her
Yeah.
against all time, because then that is definitely no.
But like,
who right now is she up against as far as elite female MCs?
well, everybody likes to pit her against Nicki Minaj. I hate that conversation, that whole Nicki Cardi thing. But like, I think the reason why Nicki Minaj gets put in a conversation of elite female MCs is because she's been prolific for so many years.
She writes her own
consistent,
shit.
right?
Her
She used to tear it up.
mixtapes were dope. Her features
Yeah.
used to be the hottest verse on the entire track. Like,
She gave us moments too. Like she
Yeah.
she did it over and over
Yeah.
and
She
over and
shifted.
over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
You know,
She
so
she like that on that monster verse alone. I'll put Nicki Minaj in the conversation of elite female MCs,
You know,
and she did that more than once. So.
we don't see Cardi B doing radio freestyles. We don't see her doing ciphers and stuff like that. So I think, you know, there's room for Cardi B to kind of show that she belongs in a conversation like that. I
Possibly,
think
yeah.
she may be on pace for that, but there's also the writing conversation too. Anyways, you know, Cardi B. Let's see. We'll see what comes. You know, from her. But plenty of other. You know, I think it's just great to see, regardless of like, you know, if people adhere to, you know, certain. I don't know, like what you would call like, you know, writing your own raps in hip hop, like what rules or like certain you know, things like, I think it's just great that Black people in the culture are excelling and, you know, doing things at a high level. And
For sure.
while on that topic, you know, Black excellence and that type of stuff, Jordan Peele had his second feature length film that he directed called Us, follow up to Get Out. Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this with some people that have actually seen it. And like, you know, and I also think, you know, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen Us already, we're going to talk about the ending. We're going to talk about all that shit. So you should probably not listen to it, but it's also like,
alert.
yo, fuck you for not listening to it and not like watching this movie already.
Fuck you
know?
for not seeing
been
it.
out like for time
Do
already.
better.
Yeah.
Do better.
Do better. You had your time, you know, so don't get mad at us because we're about to expose
Yeah,
some
no,
shit.
we're like a week in, man.
Yeah,
See
yeah.
that shit.
Two.
You had
I've seen
time.
it twice.
Same.
Seen it twice?
Yeah,
Okay,
fuck
so
yeah.
you really know that.
I had to see. I had to see if I
You
missed some
have to
shit. You know,
relive
Get
the
Out.
ending.
Yeah.
My question, like, yo, I've been debating this for like the last few days. Like, I'll
Mm.
wake up one day and it'll be like, yeah, I think this, and then I'm really right now don't think so. Do you think the kid was also tethered?
No. Is that what you think?
That's what I brought up after we saw the movie.
You know, the ending.
And I was
where
like,
they're
how
really-
because they're all soulless copies of, like, it makes sense for the parents because they were cloned,
Yeah.
but the kid is is the next generation. He wasn't cloned, but the tethered woman had the same kid. So how are they the same?
No, man, because the tethered are fucking, like, they're having kids.
Yeah.
The tethered are, so that's how.
No, but I'm saying, like, you know how like the clone replaced herself,
Yeah.
like at the at the top, like.
Yeah.
Do you think the son also did that too?
No.
Like the only reason I said that because there's like moments where, like, you know, where they say like, oh, like your brother's so weird, and like there's moments where he's like act like he's making animal noises and shit, and there's like, to me, the scene where they're in the car and they're like on the beat and
Yeah.
everybody else in the car is on beat except for Lupita and the kid, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and then the ending where like he's really looking at her like, fuck.
No, I think because he knows. Because at the ending, he's looking at her like that because he knows that she isn't who she says she is. Like, because he witnesses like the stabbing scene when she's stabbing the girl, the one tethered twin with the scissors. He witnesses the ballet scene from like the locker, like when they're fighting in the classroom. He witnesses from the locker when she like chokes out the other version of her and snaps her neck. So like, and like she's like laughing. She does the exact same laugh as you can't see the air quotes I'm doing right now, but air quote tethered version of her, the one in red, does at the beginning of the movie when they first break into the house, that like laugh.
Yeah.
I've
The-
seen it twice. No,
Fuck yeah, bud. You think I'm not gonna
I
prepared?
was like,
She does the exact same laugh when she breaks her neck, like the untethered version, who like we find out is really the copy. Yeah. The untethered version is gonna be so hard to talk about. The untethered version does the exact same laugh when she breaks her neck and she's going all animal and she's making all animal noises, and the kid sees all of that. The kid sees it all from a locker. So like that's why he's looking at her like that, because
because he saw her act like an animal and he's like, yo, what the fuck?
what the
Like,
fuck?
yeah.
Exactly. And
I thought the sister was, or no, one of the kids like kills somebody, but then like you find out like she didn't actually kill somebody, and then the mom has to do it.
well, no, so the sister kills one of the twins, like she like beats her head in with
Yeah.
with whatever she was holding, but the other one just gets tossed off a balcony and then like she's still alive. She comes back
I
later.
remember thinking that she was for a bit. But,
Man, because they like in the house scene when they break in, when she's giving her monologue, when like evil Lupita's giving her monologue about like how their lives are mirror differences, she talks about how like the one, like the real regular human version had the daughter, and then she had like a psychopath daughter, and the regular human version had the boy, and the boy had to be taken out with a C-section, and in like tethered land she had to rip the boy out of her herself. So it's like,
and there was like a fire, right?
right, so they're
That's
having
what
kids, like they're like the tethered people are mirror fucking and
They
having
fuck.
kids. Yeah.
Okay. When you saw it the first time, did you like Get Out's like pretty straightforward as far as like
Right.
the overarching themes and stuff like that, like the cinematography and like the Easter eggs and everything is what makes it amazing. But like, did you leave the theater like the first time and be like, this is a film about classism? Or like, did you
No.
kind of have
No.
to do the research after?
No,
and stuff?
no, it wasn't like Get Out. It definitely didn't hit the same way as Get Out did.
Did you take that though away from it, that it was like a film about classism and like just the marginalized and like the oppressed and stuff like that, and like the way that you can that's almost you in a sense, like you shouldn't like look at people that way, and that like that's why they like are you, because
I think if you just watch that movie as just a horror movie, then
you'll miss a lot.
You'll miss a lot, but you'll save yourself the stress of trying to figure out what you're not missing.
That's very true.
And it's like we're all like we've all been reading the fucking forums, you know, who's got the key, who's got the answers. But like, I think like if you were, I grade it as a 7 as a standalone horror film, because like if you were to ignore the peripherals, it's basically a home invasion film with a sick fucking M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. But if you're to try and dig deeper, if it was to be a film about classism or what have you, I would grade it lower, like a 6, because a film that's supposed to have deeper themes should be more effective and less vague and ambivalent. Because at the end, shit just didn't tie together. It's like, not that many people can make a fucking, however many people were underground, they've stretched across the mountains at the end of the film. So like
did you think
maybe
that was...
all right, well, that point aside, I just think that if it was a political film, it didn't do its job as good as if it would have if it was just a horror film.
I agree with that.
I agree too, and I haven't thought of like I hadn't heard that perspective yet, and like, you know, contextualizing it that way I think makes a lot of sense. Did you? I'm also, because I'm still sort of doing the research. Like, it's still a little fresh for me. Did you?
I'm digging through it.
Did you get like an allegory? You actually is a film guy. Fuck. Did you get the allegory for like the hands being a wall?
Oh fuck no!
Like,
I missed that.
Remember
shit.
when she's like, "Yo, we should go to Mexico."
Yo, no.
Yeah, but once again, it's like,
a man has to go see a movie the 3rd time. Dog. I'm gonna have to go spend $16.
Waiting the whole time for the last 15 seconds.
Yo, Hands Across America. Hands Across America is some American ass shit, right? Like that was like in the 80s, like a really big thing.
Holy fuck! Yeah, no, that's definitely it. Like,
I'm also gonna drop on you guys some shit that I have not seen one person bring up in a forum.
If you say forum one
in
more
a forum
time.
and in any conversation about this film, I have yet to see this, so I feel like I'm the only one who's noticed it.
Sunday's Best Podcast exclusive.
Very exclusive, very rare. At the beginning of the film, when they're zooming in slowly on the television, right before the TV, when they're showing the Hands Across America ad, before it turns off and you see her childhood reflection in the screen, there's on the sides of the television, there's all these VHS tapes. And as it's zooming in, I can't name them all, but one of them was this movie called Chud, CHUD. Okay. And as it was zooming in, because I'm a super 80s horror film fan, it was like one of the first scenes. It was right after the super fucking sick rabbit zoom out scene came the screen in.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. That was
big,
amazing
sick. It's just cinematography speaking sick. But Chud came up first, and I noticed that first, and I was like, oh, Chud fan, that Jordan Peele must like recognize that movie. So take in everything you know about the film. So Chud stands for Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, and the whole movie is about these mutants that are they're these proletariat miner people who live under the earth, but because we put all our toxins into the sewers, they transform into these mutants, and then one day there's too many of them and they all pop up out of the sewer. And so that's cool. That's Chud as a film. But like at the end of the movie, I was like, it's Chud.
Yeah, for real.
I was like, but no one else has brought that up, and I felt like I spotted that. And
I think you should like we gotta chop that up and like put that out.
I'm telling you,
like,
man, you could just watch Chud. It's better movie.
There's
more.
I should have had the gunshots. Fuck. But I think. Oh wow, I'm considering what you.
Sounds about white, Braden.
Watch Chud.
You would say that.
Just.
Dub D.
There's a lot of homage paid to horror movies in that film in general.
Oh man, because 80s is coming in so hard. It's like all the people who grew up with 80s horror are now of the age where they can afford to fund their own horror movies, and that's why you get shit like It Follows and Stranger Things.
It Follows is sick.
Abyss and what's that one? Don't Silence or Don't Speak. The one where they break into the blind guy's house.
Don't Speak, I think.
Yeah, but like all those movies have super 80s esque like visuals, and the music is all that like down kind of shit.
I love that
It's
shit.
the people who came from that are remaking it, and so that's why it's sick, because 80s
those
horror
moments.
is the sickest horror, and it's coming back, and everyone's like, these movies are great. It's because they're 80s horror inspired films.
Okay. Shout out Jordan Peele.
Shout out
Shout out Jordan
Shout
Peele.
out Jordan Peele for making.
What do you guys say? Get Out or Us? Which one's better?
Get Out.
Get Out.
Yeah, easily. Get Out.
Get Out to
Get
me.
the fuck out of here.
Get Out to me
Get
is
Out Us.
almost is, especially speaking as a member of the light skin delegation. You know,
Hey.
Trey, I'm sure you could feel me on this. Like, you know, like it was almost flawless to me. It was very like. I don't know if we need to make a deep dive on Get Out. I think we know what Get Out
Yeah,
is,
Get Out.
you know?
Like, I think that Us doesn't do as good of a job at what it's trying to do as Get Out does. Like, I see all of Get Out is designed around how they're all finessing Chris. So, and Us is not that well put together and well strung together.
Shout out
I
Jordan
saw
Peele.
somebody call Us the Fire Festival of movies.
Where everyone shows up
what?
and doesn't get what they want.
Really? People are feeling that? Like,
I saw it. That
That's
was
good.
flagrant.
That is a little flagrant. Because I think I think a lot of the criticisms have some sort of merit to them. Like there's some truth there, but like I was still entertained.
Man, I really liked the movie. Like, I didn't
It's a
see it. I
horror
didn't
movie.
see it
It
twice
was
because I didn't fuck with it. Like, I really liked the movie, and I liked it the second time. And I noticed a bunch of shit in it the second time that I didn't the first, just not to the extent of Get Out. But that's not fair because you're seeing Us having already seen Get Out.
Yeah.
Right. So Jordan Peele has now set this precedent for himself that he has to live up to, or else you're gonna leave and go, "Oh, it wasn't that good." Like, fuck that.
Listen, he's got my money for the next two movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like he could completely fuck up on the next
And
one,
what's
and
that-
I'll
what's
still
that?
be like,
He's
I'll
doing that-
still see the next.
He's doing the X-Files reboot too.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yeah.
He's-
I love.
No
that.
fucking way, man. That's
You need that
sick.
yeah.
on a drop.
Yeah.
Is Mulder Black? Is this going to be a Spider-Man fucking
It's
Is Spider-Man
Mulder
issue?
Black.
Speaking of Jordans, you know, Jordan Peele, great for the black community. Somebody who's not so great for the black community named Jordan, and not Michael, but Jordan Peterson. You know, you're. I feel like he was like looking at me like, "Yo, where's he going with this?" I'm like not for.
Braden's not hyped to the ultimate Jordan segue.
You know what? I've done some long deep dives on Jordan Peterson on this show before and talking about him, and I'm not as well advanced as I probably should be to be speaking about something like that. But I also just, why would I indulge myself into, you know, so much Jordan Peterson-ism? But thankfully, I have a guest who did, and it can tell us all about it. You know, I even
Hi,
saw that
guys.
when you posted on your story. You posted Jordan Peterson's latest book. Is it a new one?
I don't know if it's this. I don't know when it was published. I'm assuming like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I only posted the story that I read it because when I first opened the book, I'll typically post when I'm starting a new book.
Yes.
And when I finish it, I'll be like, here's my rating on it or whatever. I knew that when I posted that I was about to start reading the book, I was like, I knew that I have like, you know, a lot of super intelligent activist friends and stuff. And they were all just like, why are you fucking reading?
How are you reading?
Why are you fucking
Jordan
reading this?
Peterson book?
And
Yeah.
I was like, I had no like excuse, but I was like, I've seen a bunch of his YouTube shit. He seems to be a pretty abhorrent guy, but like the shit is like a New York Times bestseller and it's like flying off the shelves. And I was like, all right, I need to put it through my filter to see, because the same way I won't trust going to a movie because everyone says it's good is the same way I'm not going to read a book because everyone says it's bad. So
Think for yourself.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I read it and then I agreed that it was horrible.
I feel like Jordan Peterson's like almost that like science and fact-based racism. Like, yo, he makes those people sound like
The best
really
kind.
smart. Like he sounds really smart when he says anything. And it's
Yeah.
like he takes these wild, takes these sensitive pressing issues. I like watching him debate like feminists and stuff though. Like that shit's funny.
He's an excellent debater and he's
Yeah.
a very intelligent
great
person.
at it. Yeah.
He's like basically like a Darth Vader character where his powers have been used for evil. He's like when you're reading the book, you're like, man, like you're such a smart guy, but usually I equate intelligence with sensitivity. You know what I mean? Like people who I think of intelligent are like the Dalai Lama or like, you know, people who are on an emotionally intelligence high level. And his shit is just on the dark side of that. He's just like, he's very intelligent. I just don't see a lot of like peace and love in his writing, but his whole thing is about that life isn't peace and love, it's chaos, and here's how you like manage that.
It's very pessimistic.
Kind of, yeah. He's a pessimist, I guess. I just
Is he more
beyond all of
pessimistic?
his beyond all of his rhetoric and philosophies. My biggest problem with the book is he's a bad writer. Like the writing was bad. Like it was like if Robert Munch wrote like a long form story.
Oh my
like it's like
God.
child writing, but like long and then peppered with like psycho babble. So you're just like, what the fuck?
Evil
And
Robert
then I
Munch.
finished it. I can't really tell you one thing that I retained from that book, except some stupid lobster allegory at the very first chapter. Other than that, this is just pretty garbage. No hate.
Do better, Jordan Peterson. I was just interested to hear your insight on the Jordan Peterson, because I don't know. I had a best friend that was really like into like his stuff, and he would always preach Jordan Peterson. I was like,
I don't think I'm friends with anyone who's super into him, but I would love to hear someone who is tell me why.
I've seen both on the internet. Like I'm not very well informed on Jordan Peterson in general, but I've seen both on the internet of people posting his praises and absolute hate. So,
another one of those guys that really benefits and
Polarizing.
utilizes
Yeah,
from,
exactly.
from the cancel outrage
Yeah,
culture
definitely,
shit, right?
definitely.
You know?
I can tell you that book would not have sold if he was not a polarizing, controversial character. That's what powered that book to sell, because as a book alone, it's his brand once again.
I agree. Before we get out of here, I feel like I always like tackling some really big, earth-shattering sort of topic and seeing how quickly we can get through it. Now, slavery happened a while ago.
So slavery.
People like, I love when people are always like on the slavery conversation, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's like, nah, man, that was 1856.
Yeah, it was not
That's
that long ago.
150 years ago. That's 75 twice. That's two grandmothers. That's
your mom's mom.
Yeah, bro. That's
Yeah.
not that far. That's your mom's mom that was owning people.
Yeah.
Get upstairs, Susan, and warm up my bed. Like, those types of, plantation. Anyways,
When you break it down like that, yeah.
I made it real. I'm sorry to take it there, guys.
Oh, man,
But,
that's a real topic.
Slavery and what we were talking about, should there be reparations for slavery? And if there is reparations for slavery, how should that look? What should that look like? How could we go about making that happen? And would Black Canadians be affected? And I think it's interesting. Both of us are light skinned. How would that play a role into it too?
Yeah, yeah. Like what? Half my family is paying more taxes, and the other half is not.
Or if it's like a monetary like sum, or if I don't have to pay taxes or something like that, do I have to pay like half my taxes then?
Yeah,
Or, like,
right.
how does
I
it
feel
work?
like how do you trace it? Like, do you have to find out that your bloodline was directly affected by slavery, or is it just like a general thing? Do you apply for like a reparations card?
I guess it would be sort of like that. You'd have to prove that, but a lot of Black Canadians, their roots are not traced back to like directly to slavery. Like, we're not descendants of
Right.
slaves,
So,
right?
and so as far as Canadians are concerned, I feel like if you weren't affected by, I do believe there should be reparations. Let me say that first. But if you can't prove that you were affected by it or that your family was affected by it, in a direct sense, because obviously in some vague sense, I'm sure, and maybe not even so vague, but I'm sure they were, then I don't really know that you have a right to claiming those reparations.
I agree. I was having some conversations with some other Black guys, some other Black Canadians earlier.
Yeah.
But it's funny what I said. Black
Braden, how do you
Canadians.
feel about this?
Yeah, I better hear that voice too.
Well.
No.
Oh man. I mean, shoot. I'm
Yeah,
by no
that's the
means
white guy. Should there be reparations?
for Saturday's show. Another
We'll be talking
episode
to a
of
white guy
Ask
now.
a White Guy.
Most
New segment?
most
New segment on
Saturday
the show?
shows are Ask a White Guy.
I mean, I'm by no means qualified to speak on this from a like
The disclaimer's so
certain standpoint. No,
No, I don't
No,
think,
I
I
would
don't
be
think there
serious,
should be.
like-
no. Like 1,000% there should be reparations. That's
Yeah.
that's an easy slide out comment that goes without saying. I'm trying to just like, I don't know, think about how it would work in today's society if that's the question. But by all means, I think not only like did slavery happen, should there be reparations? Of course, but it's also, I mean, the reverberations of it. How do you have reparations for that? How about just like, you know, not oppressing people and shit would be like a good start. We're so far behind. I don't know. I think like how Native Canadians are eligible for tax breaks, Indigenous folk are eligible for tax breaks and such, is like the capitalist current world standards of like, here, you weren't invited to this, we dragged you in, but now that you're in, we'll give you a tax cut. What's a tax? We weren't even into the tax in the first place. Yeah, but we'll give you a tax cut. You know what I mean? So it's like the government is like reparations by their standards. So if you're playing by their standards because that's all there is anymore,
it probably won't be just.
Then it won't be just. It'll never be just, and it'll always
we
be
can get
fucked.
some. We can't get like I can't give us 40 acres. You can't give us 20.
40 acres doesn't like exist.
Yo, I'll take 5.
There's not enough land for like it's all fucked up. I think,
Too
but
many niggas for that.
I don't know, man. Tax breaks maybe. Free
Tax,
free liquor and weed for all.
Free
like,
school.
I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah, maybe free education first.
Free fucking education. Sorry, man. I'm fucked up.
I think that's what it is. Is like that's the magic of racism, if you would. The lack of resources. You know, they work on itself. You know, they. You know, you don't need to constantly be oppressing people when they don't have any resources, and it kind of works in that way. So you can reverse that by, you know, creating these like sources of infrastructure and whatnot for the community. I think it's a huge conversation, you know, and I feel like we could probably talk about it.
Yeah, that could be it's a whole podcast
show.
in itself.
Where I'm not here.
I'm sorry, Braden.
I believe in
Braden.
it.
Like
You're an ally. I want to come out here and say that Braden K is an ally. Always has been.
That's good to have on your own, man.
Yeah.
Building your portfolio strong, Braden.
Co-signed. Officially co-signed. But
you make rap music and you're an ally. Jeez.
Jesus. Yeah.
I think peace and freedom and love for all. I think everyone needs to be treated with equality and love, and the only justice is the justice that we give each other as human beings. Shake hands, hug each other, tell each other the people that you love, tell them you love them, and be blind to all that bullshit. And the only way forward, reparations or not, is by teaching the young people to move forward without that, because the only reason for racism is it was implemented to people's minds when they were very young, and then it just breeds forward. So the way is to be loving and make the love move forward. People who are having kids out there, people who are making new generations of people, of human beings, like teach them to love, and then racism will be abolished organically through not education, everyone's equal, but the omission that anyone would ever be unequal.
Right.
That's the only way to really
that part. You didn't hear the Sorry, I got you. I told you I'd get you on that. But I gotta get you on another podcast. You're good at wrapping these things up. You're doing my job for me and everything. Well said. I couldn't agree more. That reparations topic is a sticky one, fun one, but we
covered the gamut.
We
a good podcast, man.
We went through those topics, and like I really liked like the dialogue we had and the insight that you guys had on some of these things. I learned a thing or two too. Before we get out of here, though, I just want anybody that is listening all the way through. What do you guys got coming out? What should people be looking out for next from you guys?
Single drop in. When's the single drop in?
The 19th. Time.
April 19th. New single coming out. Time. Probably one of my favorite off of the upcoming album. And then the upcoming album, songs about drugs.
No release date.
Current release
TBH.
date. Wait for it.
Is it just are we gonna get a release date, or is it just gonna
TBA? Release date to be honest. Release date to be announced.
To be announced.
Well, we are definitely
to be announced. Yeah, with the white double voice. To be announced.
I didn't get enough of that white devil voice.
God damn it. It's good. It's good. Off air. That's a pre-production voice.
That's an off air.
Yeah. But no. Songs about drugs. Keep your eye out for it. And Time is dropping on April 19th. Alarm's going off. Did I do that?
Is it the vape?
Is that because I'm a jeweler?
Is that because is that a real life air horn?
Hey, yo, everybody, I don't know if you can really tell on cameras, but this is the first time in
someone pulled the fire alarm
where the fire alarm's gone off in the middle of the podcast. Well, actually, right at the end of the podcast. Fuck, that's funny. I almost want to stay on here to see what will happen.
All right.
But
if we have to dip, let me shout out the socials at least.
Let's get those socials. Where can they find you at?
Yeah, follow on Instagram at President Trizzy. It's spelled the exact way that it sounds. Follow Braden at Braden K.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Keep your eye, keep posted there for drops. I'm on Twitter too at President Trizzy as well. And we got some hot shit coming soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
looking out for that new single Time. Braden, Trey, I can't thank you guys enough for coming in.
Thank you, Chris.
Providing like some really interesting dialogue, some really informative dialogue too. Ashley, thank you for the alley-oop, you know what I mean, facilitating this and setting this up, because we really got some great content out of this, and
we got a lot of people wearing flat caps.
Yo, Sunday's best from Cardi B to Jordan Peterson.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we went everywhere.
So fucking reparations.
So that is the Sunday's Best podcast. We will be back sometime next week, or if not the week after. Please be on the lookout for the Sunday's Best experience. We just filmed the pilot for that, and that's going to be something really special. Hopefully it's something that's going to be really big for the city. So Sunday's Best podcast.
Yeah.